if you think millennials get a bad rap, talk to a member of Generation Z. That's the generation born in the mid-90s and early 2000s, on the heels of Gen X and Gen Y.
A group of teenagers from South Portland decided to write, produce, and act in a play to reflect their frustrations. 207's Rob Nesbitt was there for a rehearsal to get the inside story of Gen Z.
Weird being in the new spacing, new set. That's fine.
It's day one of rehearsals and the cast of Gen Z's first time getting into the Portland Players Theater.
No, it's fine. You guys know it enough.
Gen Z the Musical is both the play's name and the generation that all the actors belong to.
We are Gen Z.
Why write a musical about their lives? Ask 15-year-old Nick Sutton, and he'll tell you that he wrote the play because others weren't getting it right on stage or on TV.
Teenagers were being played by like 20 and 30-year-old people, and they were often, an inaccurate depiction of, high schoolers today. So we were like, why don't we write an actual show about our generation, Generation Z.
Stupid curse, it could not get any worse.
Up until today, Gen Z was rehearsed on lawns and in living rooms. Getting the 12 cast members on stage for Tech Day wasn't easy, but they're finally here.
How could it get any worse?
17-year-old Annika Schmitt co-wrote the musical with Nick and is also the play's director. She guides the cast through scenes to prove a point about what kids are doing on their phones, tablets, and laptops.
Things like, social media is like causing all these problems, and maybe it does, but we wanted to talk about that and like how there are also good sides, and maybe like we understand more than they do how that has helped us as a generation to come together almost.
Better than them.
In the plot of Gen Z, there's a social media ban enacted at school. The cast spends time figuring out a way to show the positives of social media.
And when I take a break from it for a while, I actually start to feel kind of good.
Toby Labor-Smith plays the role of a nerdy teen obsessed with video games. It was important for him to not just do his part justice.
That's awesome about the Twitter,
but also break the stereotypes that are typically associated with Gen Z.
The whole thing was kind of confusing. I think it's interesting because the show is still very much like theatrical, right? So it tries to kind of poke fun at the stereotypes that exist in our world and like use them in a fun way, but also kind of deepen out the characters so they're more like realistic members of Gen Z. So I'd say it does a really good job.
After a few days of rehearsals and run-throughs, it was showtime. Showing what it looks like when teenagers take matters into their own hands. Write, produce, direct, and perform a musical about how they see themselves, not how others see them.
The message that, teens aren't just like lazy and apathetic, that they can actually, band together and support, what they believe in.
If this applause is any indication, I'd say the audience believes it also. In South Portland, Rob Nesbitt, News Center, Maine.
All right, full disclosure, I have a family tie to Nick Sutton and know him really well. Saw the second performance and just couldn't get over how smartly and well done the entire production was.
Hardly lazy and apathetic, as they were talking about. It's quite an undertaking.
Amen to that.
Yeah, wow. Well, here's an interesting postscript to that story.
About 9 hours after the second performance of Gen Z ended, Nick Sutton got into a car and headed to Boston, where he performed on a vastly larger stage. Yep, Nick sang God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch before a full house at Fenway Park on a Sunday afternoon. Was he nervous? No. In fact, a couple of innings before he took the field, he closed his eyes and took a quick nap in his seat in the stands.